schedule is running a bit late, but in some time we expect that the Prime Minister will address a rally at Chandrapur. Now remember, Chandrapur is among the few constituencies that goes to polls in the first phase of elections that are going to happen, and that is why now we are seeing that there is a lot of focus on Maharashtra, particularly Vidarbha area, which is going to polls for the in the first phase. So that is why maybe Chandrapur, maybe Bhandara, you're seeing star campaigners come in. In fact, today Prime Minister Narendra Modi is going to address a massive rally here in Chandrapur in order to campaign for Sudhir Mungantiwar, who is currently a Maharashtra minister and who is the Lok Sabha candidate from the BJP's side. Remember, during the last elections in 2019, in the entire Modi sweep, this was the only seat that Congress was able to maintain. This was the lone MP from Congress that went from Maharashtra. He passed away unfortunately some time ago. So his widow is now contesting the election against Sudhir Mungantiwar. So that is going to be a fight which one will have to wait and watch for. There are several factors that are, that have changed since the 2019 elections. The political combination itself has changed. Vanchit Bahujan Aghadi, which had at that time worked against, the current, that government, we have seen that the Vanchit candidate who was there has now been brought into the fold of the BJP. So several factors have changed since the last time. The BJP hopes that it will be able to get this seat in these elections, but clearly star campaigners have started descending in Vidarbha, which goes to polls in the first phase. Today the Prime Minister is going to be at Chandrapur within a day, that is on the 10th of this month. He is going to address a rally at another location called Ramtek, which is near Nagpur. We have seen how Nitin Gadkari has also been campaigning consistently through all these areas. Yogi Adityanath is also in Maharashtra today in the same region. So back-to-back campaigning rallies which are going to happen around this part of Maharashtra, which goes to polls in the first phase. The heat of elections has begun in Maharashtra, and we are in Vidarbha, we are in Bhandara, where just some time ago we have seen a rally which has taken place, which was taken by Praful Patel and Yogi Adityanath. In fact, just a few hours ago, Prime Minister Narendra Modi was in Chandrapur, around 180 kilometers from here, campaigning for Sudhir Mungantiwar. I have with me Praful Patel, who's just held a massive rally here at Bhandara, and who we are going to talk about how the election looks like. Modi ji has been around here 180 kilometers from here. While he trained his guns on Congress, he also took a jibe on Shiv Sena of the Uddhav Thackeray faction. He called it the fake Sena, said that the Congress has to take support from a fake Sena to stand in Maharashtra. How do you look at it?
Well, the election fever is on, of course, and the first phase is about 10 days away. So obviously now things are hotting up, and big leaders have started coming. And Modi ji was in Chandrapur. Unfortunately, I was also to be there but couldn't go due to Yogi ji's program here. Bhandara being my own home district, I decided, and of course the BJP also requested me to stay here. I'll be joining Modi ji's rally on the 10th in Nagpur district. The fact is that Modi ji...
Are you also going to see him tomorrow, because he lands in Gondia tomorrow?
Yes, of course, he will be. Of course, it's in transit. He is going to Madhya Pradesh. But Gondia being the closest airport, and I am being from Gondia myself, I will certainly go to receive him and wish him, of course, for the elections, the best of luck. And I will, of course, attend the rally the next day in Nagpur. It's a fact that what Modi ji has said is right about the Shiv Sena, because Balasaheb Thackeray was a staunch supporter of the BJP. And it was not because of power. It was not because of a certain, consideration what he will get or not get, because he believed that ideologically and otherwise, the BJP and the Shiv Sena were a natural fit. What my and our party's, actual worry was that we have tied up with the Shiv Sena of all the parties. I mean, when you look at BJP versus Shiv Sena, the then United Shiv Sena, now I'm talking, there was always an, a issue of ideological differences. The Shiv Sena was always accusing and abusing Mr. Pawar the most. And there was no reason why we should have tied up with the Shiv Sena and, abandoned the possible tie-up with the BJP, which we had already discussed with them. And if you look at in every way, today, you are trying to be holier than thou, but the fact is that Bala Saheb Thackeray used to always proudly say, my Shiv Sainiks brought down the Babri Masjid. My Shiv Sainiks took care of all the Hindus in Mumbai during the riots. All this, North Indian divide, South Indian divide in Mumbai, all this was the Shiv Sena. And today, we look at them, as if they are the most pious people. I really, wonder. And that's why, where vis-a-vis Mr. Pawar also, we were a little concerned that we are not having the right partner.
But then how did it go ahead? Despite all these reservations that you're talking about, the party, when you were also united, did enter into an alliance, did form the government, and were sitting together in power.
No, I do not deny that we did join hands, but the fact is, it was not out of, because Mr. Pawar as a leader of the party, whatever decision he took, we did, abide by it. We voiced our concern to him. In fact, why did Mr. Ajit Pawar take oath with Devendra Fadnavis? There can't be smoke without fire. There has to be some kind of an understanding we had. We had discussed with the BJP. In fact, the BJP was happy that we were talking to them. The reason, Mr. Uddhav Thackeray had said that they had promised me chief ministership for half the term. We don't know what happened behind closed doors, but the BJP was very categorical that we hadn't. And at that time, we said, okay, we will come along with you. We had various discussions with them. Then President's rule was imposed in Maharashtra. And then finally, we went the other way with the Shiv Sena. So obviously, Ajit Pawar was, in a way let down. And we had no other choice over a period of time to look at an option to exit. And exit from the government, of course. But you can see very well that the rank and file of the party, bulk of the elected people were in the same thought process. And that's why we have joined hands with the BJP.
You're saying this is a big revelation, Mr. Patel, because the last time you spoke with CNN News 18, you had kept yourself as a very reserved person. You had said this is just a fresh split that has happened. I wouldn't really like to talk much about it. Today is the first time that you are opening up in front of the national audience. Please tell us, you are saying that you had several rounds of talks with the BJP in 2019 to come to power with them.
We certainly had many rounds of talks. I was also party to most of the conversations. And also, let me be very honest, in 2014 also, we left our alliance with the Congress. Within a few hours, the BJP left their alliance with the Shiv Sena. We all fought separately. And after the 14 Vidhan Sabha elections, immediately, BJP with a minority, we supported that government from outside. I was the one who made the announcement that we are unilaterally supporting in the interest of stability of Maharashtra. We got their speaker elected without having the adequate numbers. And that itself is a revelation that we definitely were wanting to be in partnership with the BJP.
Then what went wrong? 2014, 2019, Ajit Dada goes, there's a swearing in ceremony. It becomes one of the shortest governments that Maharashtra had ever seen, and there is this embarrassing comeback.
Well, there was change of heart, and I don't know, why Mr. Pawar chose to, I mean, I'm not blaming him, but I'm just saying that there was a change of thought. Now, as a result, you see, this happened quite a few times. And the rank and file certainly wasn't very happy with the MVA government. Let me be honest. You may say that we were in the government. Yes, we were. But were we happy? Were our MLAs happy? Were our workers happy? Were our ministers happy? Were things getting done as a true partnership where everybody gets their due share of development? We are not talking of any other wrong things. We are talking of development. We are talking of getting our equal political share. That was not happening. And that's why when the opportunity came and Ajit Pawar decided that let's, talk to the BJP, and we had some preliminary talks before we called all our party workers. And the moment we said that there could be an opportunity, everybody agreed. And that's how the government came into existence with the third partner. I mean, there was already a Shinde government, but we came in as the third partner.
But did you have a word with Sharad Pawar about this? What did he have to say when all of this was happening? Because considering that 2014, 2019, all these conversations, he himself obviously must have been a part of it.
No, obviously, you see, let me again go to the core point that a leader can have a change of heart. But you see, there has to be a certain kind of, I would say appreciation of what the rank and file also want. There also has to be an appreciation that, today the entire country's landscape, the political landscape is changed. The fact is that BJP under Narendra Modi is a much more different party than what it used to be in the past. I was even in my speech trying to explain to the people that what we saw of the Jansangh and the good old days of the BJP versus what is happening in the BJP. It's a much more inclusive party and party for all sections of society. They are also, in 10 years, we are not seeing any kind of, a problem which arises in the country on communal or other lines. This is a change in landscape. This is the new BJP, and Narendra Modi ji has tried to enlarge the scope and the acceptability of the BJP.
You were saying that it was the cadre's decision primarily because of which you all took this decision to split and to come with the BJP. Was it that the cadre also wanted this?
Well, if you see now post our decision, maximum people, I'm not only talking of elected representatives, I'm talking of the rank and file. They came with us only primarily because they felt that way. And there was a feeling and that we must associate with a force which has wider acceptability, and also that gives us also, every political party needs to be able to support its workers, its elected representatives to do people's work. I'm not talking of any other way. And that ultimately, nobody is realizing that the situation, the landscape has changed. That is what I'm trying to stress, is that, people are fixated with the old world idea. I was just telling people here that, people talk that if Modi ji comes, the constitution of India will be changed. For what? Why would he change it? What's wrong with our constitution? What is the benefit to Mr. Modi or to the BJP?
Yes, Mr. Patel, I'm sorry, but since, this is a very important point that you're raising and I can't help but probe further with respect to it. There was no ideological hang-ups in 2014, in 2019, even when the split happened. Why is it then that right now Sharad Pawar has not been on board when this decision was taken? Do you think that he has not been able to sense the perception in terms of the mood that you are talking about around you?
See, in 14 and 19, if we can talk to the BJP, and especially in 19 when we can join hands with Shiv Sena, then I think the ideological lines are blurred. Then we can't be talking about ideology alone. Number two, I must say respectfully that Pawar Sahab probably this time, the last time around, did not sense or gauge rightly the pulse of the party workers and the elected representatives. That's a fact.
Do you also, yesterday while Eknath Shinde spoke with CNN News 18 exclusively, he said that at least for 5 times he himself mediated to bring Shiv Sena and BJP together in 2019. That failed. In 2019, Uddhav Thackeray had an offer of 2.5 years of chief ministership from both Congress NCP as well as the BJP, but he wanted to be the chief minister for all 5 years. What were the negotiations that happened with the Shiv Sena in 2019? Was he offered the chief minister's position for 5 years or for 2.5 years?
Well, let me be honest, good question, because when we were discussing with them, I asked Pawar Sahab, I said, they are 56 MLAs, we are 54. Fine, they broke up with the BJP because they said that we were promised chief ministership. Let them have the first 2.5 years, because that's the moot point on which they broke up. So let them have the first say, plus they had 56, more than NCP by 2, but that's not a big number. But nonetheless, I said, even if they want 3 years, give them 3 and at least let's have 2. No, I myself spoke to Uddhavji. He did not respond at all. He just kept mum. And I told this to Pawar Sahab. I said, how can we not have the chief ministership at all? And well, I don't think there was any real clear answer. And maybe he was, he never thought through it, or whatever may be the compulsions. The fact is that we, in 2004 also as NCP, lost an opportunity vis-a-vis the Congress, when we had 71 MLAs and they had 69. If we had the chief ministership shot then, at least, we would have built our party much stronger than what it is today.
Do you think that led to some discontent from within the party as well?
Well, that time there was discontent, but anyways, it's been a long history, so therefore I think people did not react, but they were, of course, sensing a sense of, that letdown. But I think in the case of Uddhav Thackeray, there was no real reason. Why should at 56 and 54 we not get a chance at all? That definitely was one of the factors, plus the ideological factor. That where is the ideology if you are going with them? And the third biggest thing, as I said, is Uddhav Thackeray ji did not also respond to MLAs, to our party workers, the way a chief minister has to respond. So there was a, brewing dissatisfaction, which ultimately led to the current situation.
I completely understand that, we have to move on. There's a lot that's happening currently as well in the state. But one last question. Currently, we are seeing that the Congress itself is quite snubbed with the Shiv Sena Uddhav Thackeray faction for the way it has unilaterally gone ahead and announced the seats. How is it that in 2019 as well we wondered about how the Congress came on board, but we have been seeing that it has been a kind of an uneasy alliance. How did that work out, and how do you see it panning out from now on in Mahavikas Aghadi?
See, Mahavikas Aghadi is not an alliance based on merit. It's, I think, just now compulsion. What else to do? How else to take things forward? And sorry to say, the great Congress party with which we were erstwhile members, and why did we break from Congress in 99? Ultimately, there was some sense of suffocation. Leaders like Sharad Pawar and Sangma and others felt so frustrated, and including myself. Long stories, but I'm just telling you that there was this unease. People of stature were never given their due share, or respect, and that is why NCP was born. The same Congress, it's come down from the highs of 400 plus seats of Rajiv Gandhi's time to the lows of not even getting LOP status in the 2 successive Lok Sabha elections, and yet having 1 Lok Sabha seat in Maharashtra versus even 4 of the NCP or others getting more, they still are sitting on the highest pedestal and wanting the maximum number of seats. They don't see the ground reality. I'm telling you how seats are distributed. You look at the ground reality here, you'll know from the people that their seat has literally been given away for whatever reasons.
So, do you think that both Sonia Gandhi as well as Rahul Gandhi do not have a sense or the pulse of the people or the ground with respect to what's happening to the Congress?
Well, the introspection lies with them. But certainly, having been a member of the erstwhile Congress party, I can say that there is a distance in between what the leaders know or hear and what is actually happening on the ground. And Rahul Gandhi, I'm sorry to say, he may be a good person. I am not going into the personal part of it. But as a leader, I mean, you have all these yatras in the midst of an election. You don't even know what needs to be done in an election is to first settle your cadre, your alliances, talk to people. You can't be missing in action. And in the middle of a yatra, you go to Oxford or somewhere he went, but you don't talk to your allies or your own people. Forget others. First, set your own house in order.
You know, you're making all these allegations. At the same time, we are seeing that as the election heat has begun, Sonia Gandhi has also come out. She has hit out at Narendra Modi now. She has called him Tana Shah, and she has said that the country needs to come out and fight against such a dictator, against Tana Shahi.
See, don't, ask me this, but I can tell you very candidly about, when you say Tana Shahi and all this, it reminds you, unfortunately, of wild allegations like Maut ke Saudagar and all, which indirectly end up helping Modi ji. It ends up helping the BJP. So when you say Tanashahi and all that, see, he's the elected Prime Minister of India. Now, whether you like it or not, you have to accept the fact that he's democratically elected. There's no other solution to a democratic vote. And if that is the only solution, you might as well try your luck at the hustings rather than just, talk all these kind of, wild, baseless things. If people of India are so aggrieved and hurt with Mr. Modi, it doesn't require your language or your choice of words to discredit him. The people themselves are very smart in this country. If they feel unease and, feel unhappy about the way a government functions, they will show it anyways. But by simply using these kind of words, you are helping Mr. Modi's cause. Good luck to him.
Narendra Modi has also hit out at Mallikarjun Kharge for his comments on Article 370, asking what is the relevance of that article being scrapped on the other parts of the country. How do you see such comments being made?
It's very laughable when people talk about Article 370 after so long. See, the fact is, Dr. Babasaheb Ambedkar, one of the architects of the Constitution, he has incorporated Article 370, which is very much in the public domain, you can read it, where it was a article put for a short period of time, because Kashmir had just been integrated into India. It needed some time to, settle down, and therefore disturbance should not be there. It should take its own little time to settle down. Now, after so many years, when it's itself written in the Constitution, Article 370 is for a short period of time. It's a transient article, and if it has been removed after 75 years of independence, I don't think anybody has any right. In fact, to be honest, most congressmen at that time couldn't say it, but they were very, supportive of the idea that whatever has been done is right. And that's why let's not get into, everything in the context of 370 is being read as anti-Muslim. That is not correct. See, if anything is there about Muslims or minorities, people like us are there to stand by them. We are not saying that Modi ji or the BJP is doing anything wrong. But 370 is in the context of Kashmir and the development of Kashmir and its people. Some politicians cannot say that everything is wrong about 370 removal and therefore everybody has to believe it. The fact is, the people of Kashmir are also the people to benefit out of that removal of that article and the progress which will come now. And there is a change. We can see, I can sense. I have been to Kashmir after 370 has been abrogated, and we can see the change. Today, people from all over the country, people like you and me are going to Kashmir. Nobody is feeling insecure. Nobody is being attacked. There's very little terrorist activity. I'm not trying to say that there could be complete peace, But compared to what it was, it's much better. And it's good for the people. You see, generations have been lost by fighting and being taught propaganda, which is completely against their own development. That is what needs to be done. And I think in some ways, you have to accept it. And we have to move forward. Now this Ram Mandir thing, also sometimes the opposition makes a big thing about it. Fine. There was a time when there was a tension. But now this entire episode of the Ram Mandir has been resolved through the Supreme Court. The Muslim clerics, the Muslim organizations have also accepted it. Let's move on. We can't keep fighting all the time. Otherwise, we will end up doing just this and not developing a country.
But then questions are also raised when parties like yours get attached to the BJP, because when it comes to ideology, the ideological differences when it comes to Ram Mandir or issues like these seem to be clear cut.
The Ram Mandir movement started in 89, was it at its peak in 91, and 92, 93 the masjid was brought down by some people, especially Bala Sahib used to say my Shiv Sainiks brought it down. After that, Vajpayee ji and Advani ji were together and the government of the NDA was formed. Mamta Banerjee was a part of that government. Omar Abdullah was a part of that government. DMK was a part of that government. BJD was a part of that government. Nitish Kumar was a part of that government. TDP was part of that government. And I can count few more names. Then what are we talking? After the Ram Mandir movement, after the Babri Masjid was demolished, and the people who were in the forefront like Advani ji, they were in that government and you were happy to be with them in the government, and today you want to criticize the present BJP. This is not that same BJP. That BJP was welcome and this is no go. That's not right.
You just spoke about Mamta Banerjee. We are seeing that a full-blown battle has come out in West Bengal, where we are seeing that the Mamta Banerjee's party now has moved the election commission against the NIA. There's a complaint and FIR that has been filed. So this whole tussle that you are seeing, on one hand, Mamta Banerjee is being seen as a firebrand leader who's possibly one of the contenders when it comes to opposition faces. How do you see this tussle that's coming up when it comes to Mamta Banerjee?
See, listen, Mamta ji is a natural leader. We have been, working together. We were in the same party. We were in parliament together. But she has this spirit of taking people head on. That's how she had to do it, because the left parties would never have allowed her to come into Bengal politics. She fought it and came to power. And I'm surprised that she is taking such a, I would say, aggressive stance against the BJP. Maybe it suits her politically.
But the BJP is a different thing. This is against the central agencies that she's talking about. So it's the TMC versus the NIA, which we are seeing in West Bengal.
No, but you see, by proxy, she is trying to say that this is the government or the BJP getting things done. It may not be the case, which is never the case. People unnecessarily read too much into every agency is just run by the government or the BJP. The fact is that she is looking at it as a proxy war via the agencies being played against her.
One last question with respect to the Indie bloc, the kind of issues that they are raising, how do you see them standing against BJP and allies in the coming elections? With respect to the face, with respect to the issues, how do you see their fare?
See, the Indie alliance is a non-starter. I'm being very honest. I have been to the first meeting in Patna. I was very much part of the then Indie alliance. And I am sorry to say, it does not inspire confidence. Even today, they are fighting in different places, in different formats. One side you say something, in one state you say something else. And ultimately, you see, people of India, you may have heard when I ask people, who do you want, Modi? And who's on the other side? If there was a name, maybe this is a public place, this is not a party meeting. Somebody could have said X name, Rahul Gandhi, X name, Y name. Why there's nobody taking a name? Because they themselves know that there is no name. And the people also, therefore will not take your name. And people are, I'm telling you, the Congress has hit these lows only because of their own doing. I have been a part of the Congress, and therefore I am telling you that they should get their act together. They will not be able to fight Mr. Modi or the BJP the way they are going and doing things.
Mr. Praful Patel, I'm sorry, but one last question with respect to the Guardian report, which has been going viral globally. The statement that Rajnath Singh made, if anybody dares to spread terrorism, India will not tolerate, ghar mein ghus ke marenge. Do you see this as a different image of the country that is being projected globally now?
I don't see anything wrong. In fact, I welcome it. The reason is the country has suffered for, I would say, so many years due to terrorism, different kinds of terrorism. And do we subscribe to it? Do we want India to be an unsafe place? Do we want foreign investment to come in? Do we want foreign people to come here and work and, grow our economy along with our own people? Do you not want Indians to go and live globally and work globally? We are today probably one of the most global citizens are the Indians. And what happens if every day we are living in an uncertain, environment of fear, of, terror? You can't have that. And therefore, India has to sometimes show that, yes, we have the will and the resolve to fight this out.
Mr. Praful Patel, wish you all the best for all the campaign trails ahead. Though you are a Rajya Sabha MP, we are seeing you campaign quite actively for all the candidates, not just here in Bhandara, but all around. So wish you all the best for this, and thank you so much for elaborately speaking to CNN News 18. So this was Praful Patel in an exclusive conversation with CNN News 18, taking out time from his busy schedule of campaigning. As you can see, his Prachar Sabhas are still going on through late night, even as he will probably wrap up much later. With video journalist PS Rajesh, this is Vinaya Deshpande from Bhandara.